Well, audio. Yep. To begin this workshop, tonight we're going to be discussing street maintenance master plan / rebuild master plan. Uh, we have with us Brad Shores from JEO, who's presented a proposal at the last meeting. I'm going to let Sarah make any preliminary comments she wants to, and we'll get started.
Sure. For those in the room and also for anyone tuning in online, I wanted to provide just a little bit of background on the workshop tonight before Brad speaks. This kind of began as a concept before I was here. The idea of having a master street maintenance plan that could help guide our investments in pavement management, and was part of the capital improvement plan that Lisa has been putting together. In January, my first meeting, we brought a proposal to close out an existing bond fund that had been used to collect specials for street improvements elsewhere in town. I think Clay Hill Road was one of those. And then to transfer those funds to the street reserve fund. And so in total, between transfers made in 2025 and then at the beginning of 2026, we've transferred about 53,000 to that fund. And so conceptually, knowing that we had those found funds essentially kind of prompted, hey, let's go ahead and see about a street maintenance master plan. Additionally, we have kind of two driving items that caused me to bring it in February. One was the goal to have a capital improvement plan really built up, shored up by budget season of this year, so around June or July. The other is that council has done a workshop about a potential sales tax, and the top two items for that sales tax would be streets and sidewalks and public safety. So I brought the item in February, at February 11th, thinking that if we could time it right then, there would potentially be opportunity to have preliminary results before both of those milestones. And yet, what I realized in hindsight is that was too fast. And so, what I want to do is slow the process down. We're here tonight to have more in-depth discussion for you all to answer questions. To Brad's here again from JEO to answer questions. We can spitball ideas. Tonight is a workshop, so there will be no action. But what I would ask council to try to do tonight is to help define direction of strategies you'd like me to pursue, whether the proposal that's on the table from JEO or whether looking into a finite number of other strategies. So I've got a few more things I'd like to share after Brad shares, but I wanted to invite Brad back to talk a little bit more about what these plans are, what we would be getting for the price point, kind of the reason that an engineer might be a good investment versus other methods, and then to talk about just some other plans that he's been involved in and what the results and outcomes look like from that. And so I will be Brad's slide person. He'll tell me when to forward, and so I'll let Brad have the floor.
Great, thank you. Real quick, silly question. Sometimes I like to walk around. Do I walk off camera or something? Should I stay here?
We have pretty much the whole room. I don't think you can walk off camera too well.
Right. And now watch I say that and I'll just stay here the whole
Uh-huh.
time. So for council, I'd like to say, like, please ask questions as we go. You're not going to mess me up. If you've got questions as we go, particularly around something I said, please just jump in. So this is a pavement management plan. You can go to the next slide. Just full transparency up front. I presented to Great Bend last week, and we had just, a little while ago, we completed their pavement management plan. It was a workshop that I went to in Great Bend last week, and this is mostly the slide deck from that. So it was fresh in my mind. It was communicating to their city council what we'd accomplished, and I think it's a good slide deck to kind of hopefully answer your questions. I have tweaked some things, but just prepping you ahead of time, you're going to see some Great Bend stuff in there, and that's just an example, and then you can connect the dots on what it would do for you. So the gentleman on the right, you know me, Brad Shores. I probably still don't look like that, but the gentleman on the right is Jason Peak. He is not on. I was hoping he'd be on virtually. He is at DC for a conference. He he works for JEO. He was the Topeka Public Works Director, and when he became the Public Works Director roughly 10 years ago, basically they said, you're going to start fixing our streets. And so he already had a strong background. He's an engineer. He had a strong background in public works and streets, but he really dove into the science and the understanding what we have here. So if you ask really, really tough questions, I'm going to go back to him because he's my subject matter expert, and I'll have to come back to it to another time. But I've been through 3 of these with JEO, so I know enough to be dangerous now. But just want you to know I have other resources kind of behind me as well, but he is my number one subject matter expert in this field. Next slide. So what we accomplished for the Great Bend pavement management plan and what we'd accomplished for you going left to right. So first up, we review your construction practices. For Towanda, there may not be, there probably is not existing city standards on the kind of street work and pavements. And so that may be a pretty quick review, but then we have resources we can provide to supplement. We're going to audit your existing street inventory. We're primarily going to do that with that third one there. We're going to evaluate the roadway conditions. There are a number of means to do that. For what our contract shows that we put in front of you that you're not voting on tonight, but we're kind of talking about. We are going to evaluate every block. There will be 2 sets of eyes looking at every block in person and your streets. They'll have been trained on ranking these, and they'll come up with a ranking system. And so that is it is a very labor intensive part of this because they're spending a few days traveling and looking at every block you have on your street and doing a ranking system. We'll talk more about that later. The next one over, then that's where one of the real benefits comes to you is that we're determining what type of work and when we're suggesting in your system. And that ranges from full reconstruction, which is the most expensive, to what we would call major rehabilitation, which is still very expensive, and then to minor rehabilitation. And particularly in minor rehabilitation, there's a broad spectrum of, I call them light touches that we can bring onto pavements. And that's, I guess I would just say, and you're going to hear me say this again, as we are working with cities more and more on this, everyone understands what a reconstruction looks like or a mill and overlay, which is a major rehab. The light touches, there's a lot of education we're finding out that's needed. It's not a knock on city staff. It's just you have limited resources and you know what you know. And so those light touches is something that we're finding is a very important component that we bring with this. I probably should have changed a little bit of the language there. We are not developing for you a binding CIP. We're developing a 10-year CIP plan or maybe a non-binding plan. And we're going to talk about that more, but we will come up after doing a lot of work talking about budgets. We will come up with, hey, what streets are you going to touch, roughly when, and what will the touch be for 10 years? So you'll know, and there are some advantages to that to you as a council to have that resource. And we'll talk about that more as well. And then we set goals and performance metrics. And it's, there's so many things, even in my world, and I hope everyone can relate to this professionally, but it's like, oh yeah, we should be doing that. We should know, are we making an improvement on our system or are we getting worse? And what are the reasons behind it? And so the goals and performance metrics are just, hey, here are some annual, relatively simple things we can do to track how we're doing with our street inventory. And so that was all accomplished on the Great Bend, and those would all be goals that we're bringing to Towanda pavement management plan. Next slide. I'll pause there. See if you have any questions.
Didn't you guys give us some study 2 or 3 years ago that was going to cost way more than this?
Not for streets. No.
I'm almost positive that you guys came in and tried to sell us on some street study. Mike, do you remember that? There was some street study and it started with 6th Street going across the railroad, blah, blah, blah. And you guys gave us, I want to say it was a crazy number. And this is a little different, I get that, but in essence, you guys are still starting with a street study, right?
So Sixth Street, uh, we looked at, what would it take to add a sidewalk coming up from, the residential area all the way up to Main Street.
Right,
And the intent behind that was to go after a cost share grant.
right.
And we probably priced out what we thought the construction cost and the design cost.
No, I'm just talking about the planning part of it. What I remember, the planning part for you just to go try to get this grant, you're right, it was a grant.
Yeah.
And it was, I mean, we voted it down, I know that, so. I
We do
remember
not, we do not charge for grant applications. There could be a few different things you're thinking about. Now, there's an SS4A study, that you are probably gonna get, you'll have to make a choice on whether to pull the trigger there. And there are
That's
dollars.
175,000, of which 20% is the city's share.
That's coming up, and with that Safe Streets for All study, we were proposing to have the feds help you pay for a study of Sixth Street. If you don't want to do that grant application.
And we didn't get that, right?
We received the Safe Streets for All grant that allows us to do the study. And then once the study is completed, and that was an 80-20 grant, so 80% is paid on our behalf.
Mhm.
We will pay 20%, so I think 35,000 for the
So-
study. And then the study allows us to be eligible to begin to apply for grant funds to actually implement the project.
So who's doing that? Like, who are we paying to do that street study?
We don't have somebody selected yet. That is out currently for a request for proposals. And so we will have proposals due by March 31st. So we will vet any proposals we receive and probably bring that to the May council meeting for council to make a selection on which firm.
So maybe I'm confused.
I think, did you participate in the study where we ran into the loggerheads with the railroad over sidewalks coming from Pine Ridge to clear to Main Street?
I mean, we've never actually talked to a railroad on behalf of you, so that maybe that predates us.
Okay,
Mhm.
so hold on, maybe I'm confused. So we have money, we're already paying somebody, or it's out for bid to start a street study,
The Safe Streets for All.
which is a street study.
It is more about the move. Brad may know more than I do, but I think it's more about movement, pedestrian activity, things like that. It is not a pavement study.
It's not a condition.
Is that just for Sixth Street for
No.
down there, or is that for the whole town?
I think it's for the whole town. I don't have details in front of me,
It is.
but with a focus specifically on Sixth Street, knowing that that is a place where there are kids walking on the street regularly. And so what you guys are saying actually all feeds into this. If we have a master pavement management plan for our streets, then we will look at what opportunities are there for grants or sales tax funding or other opportunities that can help us to begin to deliver.
So
And
the
so
state-
Safe Streets for All might be part of that.
Safe Street Patrol is not gonna give us a street study then.
No,
No.
it's more of a
Okay,
pedestrian
safety.
traffic safety.
seems like a lot of money to say we have traffic in places.
But a lot of these
Yeah.
will feed together to create kind of that working plan and then to have things in place so that we can go after grants to help pay for things.
Yeah. Ask her, I would like to know, because I'm telling you, there was something with JEO 2 years ago or somewhere in there for something similar to this, and the price is much different. So it's not exactly the same. I'm not saying that, but there was something in here that is ringing a bell to me. So hopefully we can find that later. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, you're good. We're happy to talk about it. So just to echo what Sarah just said, the Safe Streets for All study, which is, we're here for to know, but they're interrelated. So it is a comprehensive safety study of your system for all transportation modes. And then it's federal dollars. You're paying 20 cents on the dollar. It allows you, there are some things you have to do with that program. And then there are some things you can do with that program where they allow benefits. So, for example, you have a lot of engineering challenges if you're going to try and bring a sidewalk from that residential area up north of Main,
Right.
particularly around the railroad,
Yeah.
drainage structures there. In my opinion, you need an engineer to look at that and get you realistic costs. we're looking at it, it's a very complex situation. It's not gonna be fun dealing with the railroad. That Sixth Street, I'm sorry, that Safe Streets for All study, that is a corridor safety issue. So we're trying to find you value add. Hey, let's get an engineering study and do it as part of that, and now you're only paying 20 cents on the dollar. So that's a separate issue. That will study the whole, if you choose to go forward with that project, that will be a comprehensive study of your whole system. Today is more, the contract in front of you is the pavement condition assessment and how do you move forward with that. So hopefully we'll answer a lot of questions, but keep dialoguing with me and asking questions as we go. So your streets today, so for Great Bend, we found out, and for you, we'd find out, some of these are easy, some of these are not easy. How many miles of streets do you have? How much of those are paved? What pavement type are they? That's easy stuff. We can do that pretty quick. A question, if you ask me today, I don't know the answer. It would take some time to think through this. Is what is the estimated value of your pavement system? In other words, if aliens came and magically took your streets today, just took them away, what would the city be on the hook for to rebuild everything, assuming you have plenty of contractor availability? And it just reveals what level of investment that you have in your system. And then the fourth component there, which is the hardest one and will take the most time to come together for, or to work through the analysis on, is what is the condition? So the standard is called a pavement condition index. It's a number from 0 to 100. And I'll show you later how those rank into very good, good, fair, poor, very poor. And generally, what you find is that citizens for every city, probably in America, believe their streets are not very good. And the reality is that's a subjective opinion, and now we're trying to provide some data-driven understanding of what that really is. And so on this slide, we're just showing you examples of what the very good HMA is asphalt, PCC is concrete, what very good, good, fair, and poor street conditions look like. And we're going to do that for every block in your community. If you decide to go forward with this project, we're going to assign scores, and then we'll have an overall collective score. So we just have a sense of how is the entire community. And I'm going to talk about the benefit of that here in a little bit. Next slide. So this is a map for Great Bend. So I'm apologizing, this is Great Bend, but we just completed this. It's fresh on our mind, and it shows you what you're going to really get. So there's a legend that I've cropped off to make this a little bit more visible, but this is simply showing pavement types for every block within Great Bend. The blue is concrete, the dark red or the magenta is asphalt, the red is gravel. There's a little orange in there, and that's actually brick in Great Bend. So, by the way, that is easily plug and play into GIS. You don't have GIS right now. If you wanted GIS, it's relatively inexpensive, and now you have this, and boom, it could go right into GIS. We will put into GIS at no cost. The city would be on the hook for, if you wanted to start maintaining a GIS system, which is maybe a separate conversation, but we can talk about it if you want, hundreds of dollars. It's not expensive to have a GIS system that helps you track the inventories of infrastructure in your city. Next slide. And then this is the really, maybe one of the really big outcomes of this study is now we're looking at block by block, and I don't have the legend for the color code. I probably should have brought it in there. So purple in this case is very good. Blue and cyan are, I think, good and fair. Red is poor. Maybe orange is fair. So I mixed up those a little bit. But anyway, there's a color spectrum. And you can see that Great Bend actually has a lot of really good streets. There are some reds. And then so now we have a block by block evaluation of the pavement condition of that community. And and then we can come up with an overall score. So next slide. If we do this study for you, we will be spending a lot of time with Sarah. Sorry, the text is a little small, it's hard to see. Looking at the last 5 years of spending and trying to understand how much you have spent on your streets year by year for the past 5 years. That is a surprisingly challenging conversation, even with big communities. Sometimes you get a grant. Sometimes you have funds that when we look at your CIP, it says it's going to this, and we find out it's actually a little bit of it's going to streets. So it's a very it's a little time consuming. It's a complex process. Sarah's already said that there's going to be some challenges looking through the record keeping, but we're going to do our best guess to understand what you've been spending on your streets. And then we're going to have very very concrete, pardon the pun, conversations with Sarah and with you about what are realistic goals for spending going forward. I'm going to show you a slide here in a little bit. We're going to give you like 5 scenarios of, what if you keep spending what you have been? What if you think you can spend more? What if you start spending less? And what we're going to tell you is, here's your payment condition today. In 10 years, depending on the spending that we've talked about, what do we project your payment condition index will be in 10 years?
Does that include equipment?
No, not, if I understand your question, we're ignoring equipment investments by the city.
Okay,
We're assuming dollars put into the pavement.
okay.
So,
We're going to be splitting that out a little bit better in our budget going forward. There's been some mixing. I've been
Yeah.
deep in budget and trying to create more of a pure budget that allows us to see what we're spending on different investments.
so Jennifer, at City Council, you really challenged me on, what's the why? Why do this? What's the benefit? Part of the why is, like, as an engineer who's I haven't spent my entire career in streets, but even if I had a street expert in this room today, what is the condition of your streets overall? We don't know that. How much money have you been spending? We don't know that. What money do we need to be spending, and what will that do for us in 10 years? We don't know that. This study is going to answer all of that. Do you have to have the study? No. You can keep doing what you're doing. You can kind of keep making guesses, and a lot of communities in your shoes. I just want to be very candid with you. As we're a smaller community, your dollars are tight. So a little bit easier for the bigger communities to make these investments in these studies. I get that. I'm sympathetic. So I understand these are value conversations. What this study will do is you will have a good feel for where we're at, what we've been spending, and what do we need to spend to change the needle, whatever that is. And I'm going to give you some examples of that for other communities here in a minute. So next slide. Apologize, this doesn't show quite as big as I wanted, but on the left, it's pretty hard to read. But basically what it says is, if you do a light touch on your street earlier in its life, you might spend, it says $1. That's a kind of a symbolic number. If you wait, which is what most communities do, until it's spent 75% of its life, now to maintain it, you're spending 4 or 5x. It's just kind of a general rule of thumb. And what it shows you is that, and you're going to see this, I have a screen showing it to you in a little bit. Most communities tend to do worse first, even bigger communities. And what happens when you do that is that sucks all your money, and now your good and fair streets are going down, and they're going down in condition. You're not maintaining them. So you have to do some of your worst streets, but you need to do, I would say as a general rule, typically more light touches than you think. And this study will help articulate that and show what are some suggested light touches around the community that we need to be doing. On the right, that's that scale of 0 to 100. So it's a little hard to read, but basically 85 to 100 is very good, and then so on. It's a good, fair, poor, and very poor. Next slide. All right, so you don't need to necessarily read the text here, and I apologize, it's so small. And these are Great Bend dollars, okay? And Great Bend is a bigger community than you are. So, you don't need to be freaking out saying, well, our budget's not anywhere close to that. They're 15,000 people. They've got a lot of road miles in Great Bend. But we evaluate 5 scenarios. What if you do nothing? Where are you going to be at in 10 years? What if you spend less than we think you've been spending? What if you continue on your current spending? And the purple, what if we think we can increase that? And then kind of the very aggressive. And so where we landed with Great Bend is we said, we're going to be aggressive and we're going to go in that purple column. We're going to try to increase our spending. What Great Bend and I learned out of this for Great Bend, and it's different by community, and I'll show you that, their streets are actually pretty good. And they've been spending pretty good money on it. And it's actually going to take a little more money to maintain where they're at. And that if they can hit that purple column, they're going to be able to maintain. We did not know that information before we started. We didn't know how much they needed to spend. They have a 1/4 cent sales tax coming up next year. At the end of the workshop, at least one councilman asked the others, maybe it needs to be 35 instead of 25, maybe it needs to be 35, maybe it needs to be 30, so that they can, because they know on their current course, their streets are actually going to get worse, but the streets are in good shape and they don't want them to get worse. So it's informing their conversations. They're thinking about their 2027. They're a year behind you guys. 2027 sales tax initiative. They have a sales tax going on next year. So we evaluate all of those. We share those with you. We say, we are not going to develop a complex 10-year plan for each one of those. We're going to share this info with you and say, what is the city's decision? What do we think is the budgeting we need to plan around for the future? And then we're going to develop a 10-year model around that vision of spending. Next slide. That's super small, but we break it into 3 phases. So 3 years, 3 years, then 4 years. That's 10 years total. And this shows the projects we've identified in the first 3-year program. So red on here is full reconstruct. Orange is major rehabilitation, and blue are minor rehabilitation or light touches. So you can see I'm very familiar with this slide because I spent a lot of time checking it, looking at it. There are 10 blocks that they're doing full reconstruct, and those 10 blocks need it. And then there's a number of other blocks that are going to get a mill and overlay, or the plan is to mill and overlay them in the next 3 years. But there are a lot of streets that normally they would not have touched. And this helped educate the city on, hey, we need to start thinking about the streets that are in good shape. What should we be doing to them to keep them in good shape? And this comes up with a plan. I want to say, I'm going to talk about this more, but the plan is not binding. And the plan is a data-driven guide. It is literally the outcome of a bunch of equations and spreadsheets and our observations. And so we will be, whoever your city engineer is, hopefully that continues to be us. We are committed to helping you through on a year-by-year basis of thinking through how we're going to implement these 3 projects, what makes the most sense. Next slide. So this, I'm not expecting you to read this, but this is page 5 of phase 1. So this is the phase 1 is 3 years. This is the 5th of 5 pages. Basically, every block that you saw on the previous sheet or slide and map, every block is identified here, and it's saying, hey, we're going to do major or minor, and here's the cost that we're assuming. Here's the limits of the project. Here's the area that we're covering. So it's giving you some data. So it's all going to be given to you in a tabular format. I feel like I've been talking a lot. I still have more. Any questions on what we've covered so far?
I'm concerned that we're not going to find enough data to have a bigger picture like you're showing us, if that makes sense. I don't think there's a whole lot there.
I think we will be able to pull together what we can. Some of it may be digging in the budget, past budget and expenditures to determine what was pavement, what was equipment. Some of it may just be interviewing with Rylan about what projects and things they've done in the past. And so, yeah, past data may be a little scarce. I think where we're positioned, it will be informative, but it's more about if we are able to pass a sales tax, setting the expectation for what we're going to be able to do and working that plan so that we're strategic.
I don't think the sales tax is a real issue. I mean, I think we're gonna pass that because what people understand we need. But, we'll see. We'll let him keep reading and see where he gets.
Just to make sure, Jennifer, your question was primarily about the budget. Because the street condition data, we're gonna get the same data we got for Great Bend.
Right, but then you look back at what they had been doing.
Yeah.
They are doing,
That's-
you're doing a great job, by the way. I'm just
I don't
wondering
think
if it was
records.
documented and.
And in that case, we can do what Sarah's talking about and just say, okay, realistically, what do you think you're going to be able to spend in future years? And then we can base our different scenarios off of that.
We can do that for free.
You can do the budget for free. Will you know what that will do to your pavement condition after 10 years with those spending?
I don't know.
I don't. All right, so next slide. So these are like the caveats, and I introduced, I'm trying to be as upfront and transparent as I can. I introduced some of these at our city council last time. So this is surface level observations. We're not doing cores of your community. Before we plan particularly major rehabilitations, we will want to do cores of your pavement surface. I want to really communicate that the cost of that is incidental compared to any of the other costs you're doing on that project. That's minor. Unfortunately, in Towanda, you have perhaps some pretty interesting limestone geotech that introduces some other complexities. I did reach out to Geotech today. We were not able to connect. We were playing phone tag. So I'm committed to finding out more about this, but typically on a, say on a multi-block project, we might take 2 or 3 borings. My guess is $5,000. That's real money, but that's still less than the tens of thousands that you're putting into the pavement with that project. And it might be good information. We'll need to figure this out. We'll need to figure out together. If you don't do this report, we need to figure out your geology and how it impacts your streets, okay? So maybe that's a one-time 4 borings around the city and just get a feel like, okay, we're okay, we don't need to worry about this. Whether you do this report or not, it's my suggestion to you as an engineer is that we at least talk to a geotech who knows this region. We can find those people for you. I've got my most trusted that I called today and we played phone tag with. So that's going to be a special thing that Towanda has that maybe some other communities don't have. That really actually has nothing to do with whether you do the report or not. Just want to emphasize that. Go ahead. You got a question?
Nope.
No. Okay. Second, and we talked about this, like we have, hopefully, we find out in March that you guys win the KWO waterline grant and be able to do significant waterline work. You are not going to be happy with me or city staff if we go and work on a street and then the next year we rip it up to put in a water line. So we got to make sure. So we're going to give you a data-driven analysis. We need to make sure we're thinking about the other things as well when we're timing out these projects. And then the third bullet, it's economic development and it's other things as well. But what if you have an industry come in that's going to be fantastic for the city? We don't have an ability to predict that. What if that's going to add a lot of truck traffic? So it just shows that this is going to be kind of a living document. There may be some road work that moves up or down depending on unknowns that might happen. And we're just trying to communicate that we understand that that's the reality of life. And so there are things that will change. And we are committed to work with you on that going forward. And we don't typically charge for those kind of services. Next slide. So I want to give some real world examples. Okay, so I have pavement condition that I use for 7 communities up there. 6 of them are bigger than you. 1 is maybe a little bit more in your realm. We did not do the studies for all of these. We did 3 of them. Okay, and so Augusta was at the top of the list, and that's kind of surprised me. In Augusta, they think their roads are really bad. But when you look at, now again, they have some better historical spending data than maybe you guys do. On a per mile basis, they have really invested in their roads. And so it shows. And so this is really good information for the council to understand what they've been doing and what those dollars have been bringing them. We already talked about Great Bend. Their roads are actually pretty good. I went to that workshop last week, and Great Bend tells me the council was saying, this is fantastic data. We go drive other cities. We think our streets are actually better than a lot of the other cities around us. Now we have some data driven to confirm that. And then I already shared that that's helping inform them about their quarter-cent sales tax renewal next year. There's some other communities, and there's Eureka. And if I'm very emotionally attached to Eureka. Please don't make fun of Eureka. But they believe their roads are bad, and they're correct. Their roads are really bad. And so, and we're going to talk about some of the things that the study helped them get. But it, confirmed how their roads are. And it actually, this study that we did for them helped them renew their sales tax. So that was very much used in their public engagement, helped renew it. So the green there, dollars to maintain, it's going to show us that money is precious, that we're going to need to be aggressive on your behalf, going after grants, that sales tax renewals can be super important. And so I'm giving you some of the takeaways ahead of time, free no charge, is that the diversity of treatments, doing the lighter touches, the minor rehabilitations is a big outcome, just kind of high level from these studies. Next slide. Almost done, I promise. So I've talked about these some already, but I want to fill in the gaps a little bit. So the Eureka study was used heavily in the sales tax initiative. The sales tax initiative passed. They used that study, documented how bad their roads are, and they were successful in getting a SCED CDBG grant for First Street in Eureka. I think construction might be this year. And you are surprised, they won a cost share grant, the first trial out of the gate. And it's our experience, and we've even been told by KDOT that you are going to apply twice a year for 3 years before you win a cost share grant. But that study was used for Eureka and was instrumental in them getting that grant. I want to be very clear. I'm not promising you're going to win your first cost share out of the gate because we do a study for you. But I also tell you that payment management plan was instrumental in that grant application for the KDOT project. Augusta, kind of confirmed what they had been doing. It did offer some support on maybe some money that could go into brick and sidewalk work. Great Bend, I'm speaking for these communities. You're free to call them up and ask them what they think the value of those were. But it sure seemed like they appreciated that this was an educational tool as the council engages with the public about what their streets are really like. It is helping guide and inform their 2027 sales tax discussion. And we talked to them very candidly about, hey, your roads are pretty good, but let's make sure we're starting to do some of those lighter touches that have not been going on so that your roads stay good. I think this is the last slide. I do want to back up just real quick. So that page 5 of phase 1, that super long big table with all the text you can't read. So what they're doing is they're taking all of that data and they're running a bunch of scenarios. And they're saying, what if we do a light touch here? What if we do a heavy touch here? What if we wait? What if we do this? And it's running all of these scenarios in math that I do not understand. And it is saying, okay, we can get a slightly better overall performance at the end of 10 years. If we kind of follow this program, and it's not binding, but it is a strong data-driven analysis. It would be hard for me, or even if I brought in a street expert, to identify for you without that analysis which roads should we be doing slurry seals on, when is the right time to touch it with a chip seal, et cetera, et cetera. So that analysis can be very helpful there. And it's really trying to optimize. One benefit, and it's kind of built into this text here, is not every one of your streets will be touched in the next 10 years. And so another advantage of the pavement management plan is a citizen comes and says, when are you going to work on my street? Well, it's not in the 10-year plan because we're going to be better served if we spend the money elsewhere. And the city council says, well, I want to work on this street, even though it's not in the study. And that's your right and choice to do that. But you're recognizing that you're not touching a street that was in the study. Like you only have so many dollars. So Wichita does a really good job of this. They have a plan, as you can imagine. They have citizens coming to the engineering staff and the public works all the time. And they say, and they show them the spreadsheet. They have a spreadsheet that they've been working on developed over the years. And it says, here's when we're gonna touch your street, and here's the plan. And it helps them not, I'm not saying you guys would ever do this, but it was certainly happening at one time in Wichita where decisions on street maintenance was kind of a knee-jerk reaction by whichever council person was complaining the loudest, and not by what was the best benefit overall in the long term for the city street system. So we're going to identify, if we do this for you, we'll prioritize projects, we'll seek grants, we'll understand that we need to do lighter touches, and we're going to help you along that way as we make sure we're not, touching a street before a water line project the next year, those kind of things. So I appreciate you bearing with me. I am free for questions.
I got all kinds of them.
I've only got like one.
Go then. I'll wait.
It's comment / question.
Yeah.
You kind of compared our situation as far as streets needing to be, looked at and evaluated. But the one thing that I didn't hear you say is none of those towns have a $10 million water pipe system they have to replace.
Yeah.
So like, I'm saying they may have more money for streets than we do. And that's not just paying for the study, but that's okay. They paid for the study now. Here's how we think you should, use your street money in fixing that. But we also have other things we have to use money for. We're supposed to be hopefully hearing if we're getting a grant to pay for something within that grant money. And I think I've asked this before, I'm not 100% sure. Is street reconstruction part of that, or is that solely just water line?
You're talking about two different things. You're talking about the water has to go first, we know that because of the.
Correct, yeah.
And then as far as the street is what we're talking about that the grant, yes, for the water. But for the street, we're talking about that 1% or whatever we talked about that we're gonna try to get voted this year.
Yeah.
So you're talking about two different things.
Okay.
Although
that
you
makes
are
sense.
timely. We actually just had our 90% meeting this afternoon on the water line project. And one of the things that they overviewed was where the streets are impacted. There will be like the sidewalk curb cuts will be replaced. The streets will be restored, but it's not going to be any sort of advancement with them.
I guess my question is, of the grant, I can't remember the exact amount it was that we're supposed to, if we get it, how much we want to receive? How much?
A lot.
Yeah, it was like almost half of what is. None of that is part of the street. That's only for the water pipelines themselves, correct?
Yeah.
And this 1% tax is to go
Correct.
towards the streets.
Yes.
Okay,
The sales tax that we're trying to get, whatever that percentage is,
okay,
that's completely separate.
okay. And then my other thing is, I remember on the city council meeting we had, you had said this says 43. I think you had said actually it was 40. 41. And then you said, coring, what is your ultimate understanding of, we're at 40, anywhere between 45 to 47,000 if, coring and all that stuff. What's your,
All-in cost.
what do you honestly, you've done this time or two.
Yep.
You're telling us that's the lowest we're gonna pay.
Yeah,
I mean-
so
45 can turn into 65 pretty quick.
I appreciate that. So let me answer the first question first. I just want to be as real with you as I can. I tried to say this earlier. I am not telling you to do this study. I am trying to educate you guys on what I see the value as. absolutely, it's your incredibly difficult job to make value choices about how to spend the precious Towanda taxpayer dollars. So I get that challenge, and that's the hard seat that unfortunately you're in, and I applaud you for being there. So I do think there are values in these studies. I am not able to sit in your shoes and say, compared to the rest of the budget, I don't even know what your total budget is, candidly. Compared to the rest of your budget and your other needs in your community, where you should best spend your money. I'm just here tonight to tell you what this will do for you.
Okay.
So that's my first answer. We are only going to charge you 41 for this study. You will get a completed study for 41. Okay? It almost made it.
Almost,
And I will tag on to what Brad
Yeah.
said there. It is my job to make sure that we stick at 41. It's my job to make sure that they don't exceed 41.
If it takes us more effort than that, we do it.
Okay.
The cores and the geology, in my opinion, let's say you guys, you're not voting tonight. When you vote, you say, this is not the right time. We can't do it. We're not doing this study. At some point, you're going to start doing street work around here. You need to do cores then. So I would connect those costs with your street work. And the geotech, I think I would connect to that street work. It's independent of the study, in my opinion. It's my recommendation to you to do that, but not as part of this study. When you start actually doing street maintenance.
Okay, that's all I got. Yeah, sorry.
good, bud. Not the only one on there. You probably got more than I do. She's been right. She has 4 pages worth of notes.
You've been writing for 2 weeks.
Notes.
Go for it.
Okay. Right. What's your timing start to finish for the test for this?
Is the schedule in there?
Says it is.
Says this one right here.
Yeah, so 8 months from notice to proceed. So if basically when you sign it as a council, the next day we'll get it from Sarah, that's the notice to proceed. So we'll get you a study 8 months from now.
So we haven't noticed, we did this before with you guys. And it took substantially longer than what the
Are you talking about the water
I
line
am.
project?
Yep.
That is not correct, sir. We are hitting our schedule.
you didn't. There's no way we hit our schedule that first year. And maybe you guys were told different schedule than we were. I don't know.
The schedule and the contract we cut. We are hitting. If you're talking about the water line project that we delivered 90% plans recently, we are hitting that schedule.
Were you hitting it all along or you're hitting it now? Like you guys got caught up?
That's a fair question, and I don't know the answer.
Okay. When you went to Great Bend, you keep bringing that one up, so I'm gonna ask about it.
Yeah.
How many meetings from start to finish did you guys have?
Oops.
With the city,
Yes.
Should have passed these out sooner. These are the Great Bend studies.
half dozen maybe.
What was the price? And I don't know if you can tell me. What was the price of studying Eureka?
I don't know. It's comparable to yours.
And I would be glad the Eureka study is posted publicly. I would be glad to pull that link and forward it to council.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
It won't have our contract fee,
No.
but it's the, and I do, if I can give a quick disclaimer, because he handed these out and these are yours to keep. I'm just telling you right now that many of the pages will look very similar, okay? And you already have the Eureka pages. The things where I tried to be clear through the presentation that I don't know today, those are, even though a lot of those pages are going to be duplicates, the things that I don't know today, that's going to be the major outcomes of that study.
Two trained pavement raters. What's a pavement rater?
Pavement radar.
Pavement raters. What is that?
Oh, it's a weird. Those are the two individuals that we will have trained. One of them already is trained to rate your pavement. They are.
So how are they rating it? I'm curious.
They're used. So there's a national standard. It's a pavement condition index. For them, it'll be a scale of 0 to 10, and they're rating your street. It's not rocket science, okay? But it's just the labor and needed to go through that. And we do 2 on each street. They're independent. We compare, and if the results don't match, we bring in someone else.
So they're not gonna take a core, they're just, and I don't know,
All
I'm
surface
asking.
level. Yeah, it's all
So-
surface visual.
So they're just taking a visual, man, this one stinks, it's a 6. Whatever, I don't know.
Well, they've been trained, so
Yeah.
there's a bunch of examples. It's pretty easy. Once you're trained on it, you have these, oh, this is a 7, this is a 5.
Okay.
I do want to tell you, there are more exotic ways to do it.
I'm
But
sure,
they're more expensive.
I'm sure of it, yeah, I'm sure.
Do these pavement raters work for JEO or are they outside?
Okay,
Right.
absolutely.
Off the cuff, I've never thought about doing this before. But we could reduce this cost by having 2 of your staff do it. If there was the staff availability, and if they're willing to go through the
Are
training,
we able to get them trained? I mean,
we'll train them,
How much is that?
how long is that? How long is the training?
of course.
Oh, just a couple hours.
Yeah.
Does it cost anything? Just curious.
We'll
And it
charge
may-
you 2 hours as part of this. you know.
All right. So we can drop, my next question was how much you have to sharpen your pencil.
They had my,
There you go, you can have that one. I have it memorized now.
Great.
My next question was how much room do you have to sharpen your pencil?
Well, I sharpened it last time by dropping 2,000, so it was 43, and I just kind of knew this was gonna be tough for you guys, so we sharpened it right down to 41. It's the first time I've ever thought about doing
Yeah.
it, so I don't know how, I need to go back to my guys and give you what that dollar reduction is. But I think that, we'll see.
So you can have us back next month maybe, or next council and,
I think there would be an incredible value to that, not only for the current time, but
That's
to
right.
have that staff
well, I was
skills
thinking.
remain
longevity,
in-house
I mean, that's-
and continue to evaluate.
One of the goals is, you're reevaluating, probably not every year, because you're not making changes that fast, but now your staff
Right.
can do it on their own.
Right.
Yeah. Like
We
that,
can you can keep adding to that 10-year plan thing.
Mhm.
And is that like a national or some
Yeah.
certification? So like we sent him to do it, or is it kind of like
We'll just train
you're kind of
you.
dubbed to do it for the town? Congratulations.
We will train you. We're gonna be held to the Acromedia data, right? So we're gonna train you. It is to a national standard, but it's not a certification. You don't get a.
Right. There's no paper or anything, but that is what it is. We're looking at you because
I'm not gonna look over here because he might be mad at me.
I'm looking at him right now. He's been staring at me this whole time, so I'm waiting on him to tell me.
He's smiling.
I think it's a bad idea.
You got 2 guys that you could trust to do that? One?
Yeah. But and I'm not saying that this is a bad idea, but my thing is, like you said, we get him and one other guy trained, and they go out and do this deal. They're like, yeah, we just got trained, a couple months ago, but you're bringing guys who have done it. Like, can that hurt us in any way possible as far as having somebody who's been doing it for 10 years versus 6 months? Because I don't think that's a bad idea.
He just
not
said that
bad
one
rocket
person's
science.
trained and one's not,
Mhm.
or they're gonna train
We're gonna
another
be
one.
training one of our.
So,
Yeah.
I don't think it matters as far as that goes, in my opinion.
I mean, but you will have the other guy there who is trained. And I'm not saying he would do a bad, I understand that,
Yeah.
but they're still gonna compare. I'm not saying he would do a bad job by any means, but I'm saying that you've got a guy who's been doing it for so long, and yeah, you have a new guy. Yeah, they're separate, but they're gonna come together and figure out, okay, hey, this is what the actual thing is, because you have to bring in a third party.
Mhm.
We're not gonna get that third party. Or they're gonna look at it a little bit differently if it's, hey, we have 2 guys that did it who just got trained 2 months ago doing it.
I guess I'm looking at it differently. When he says independent studies, and this guy says one thing, this guy says another thing. If they are just way out of kilter,
Right.
that's when you bring the third one in.
Right.
So we can do the same thing with those guys.
Yep.
So, hey, listen, you 2 didn't get close. What's going on here?
And I understand, I'm just making sure that
Yeah.
that it's not gonna come back to bite us in the butt,
Mhm.
We'll
using
do
our
some-
own guys, even though they trained them, using our own guys and we don't get
Yeah.
what we're actually paying for. And I'm not saying him and his guy would do a bad job. I'm just saying they don't have that experience.
I guess I don't see how it can come back and bite us.
And
I mean-
that's kind of my question is,
Maybe I'm
will
wrong.
can that hurt us in any way as far as, seeking grants, anything like that, when they're like, well, who did this study type of thing?
I think it's a really legit question, Drew. There's some difficulty because we're gonna be looking at the streets constantly. We're close. We come out here. Google Street Maps is dang good. So if we're seeing stuff that just doesn't make sense, we're gonna come back to your staff and say, what's going on here? I do not expect that to happen. But I think there's some
That's fine.
built-in.
Yeah, no,
Great
that's fine. I just don't want them to.
We can define the scope between Brad and I to spot check for some data validity, just
Mhm.
even if we had to do it in-house. And I'd want to talk to Ryland between now and bringing it back to you all, just to look at scheduling and things. But
Absolutely.
if we had to do that from in-house, I would want to see JEO do some validity spot checks in that, just to make sure.
Right, absolutely.
What else? You want this back?
Yeah, I'll throw it back.
He's got 12 more questions on the back.
No, I don't think so. I think he answered one. The biggest one is sharp with the pencils, and he said he can, maybe.
I think we can.
So
I don't-
that's what I needed.
I think that's a great starting point too.
And it doesn't have to be next council meeting. I don't really care. But
Yeah.
whenever you two work out what you can do or when you can or whatever, that's up to you guys.
I want to move fast. The guy that puts together just had a baby, so I'm gonna see if I can pull someone else in to find his numbers and what that would reduce.
Mhm.
Do you want to have, I promise, this is not me trying to thwart you guys and making a decision soon. And I really don't know the answer to this. So from a sales tax perspective, if we do get this back and it goes to this next city council, and we start the next day,
Mhm.
which a lot of the work we can start even though the guy's on paternity. Are we still getting information where you might be able to use it for your sales tax?
We would have, I believe there's 5 months to the draft plan.
Yeah.
So if it was approved notice to proceed in March, we'd be looking at August. Now, when we first brought this in February, what I was thinking, or a couple weeks ago, it feels like a long month. My thought was even before JEO has a written draft, through good communication, we could probably get enough to feed the next couple of years of budget development and planning. And at least with the sales tax, my greater concern is if we're asking the public to sacrifice and pay a higher sales tax, being able to show the public that we have a plan that we're going to be working against with those funds. We're in a perfect world, a lot of this would have come in different orders and different timelines. In a perfect world, we would have run the sales tax a year before it sunsetted instead of right up at the wire. But for telling the public that we would like them to entrust us with a greater amount of their resources, that's part of where having a plan would
Well-
help, as opposed to saying we're going to take that resource at whatever level we designate, and then we're going to continue to try to make the best decisions we can in-house. And that's the default, is we will continue to try to make the best decisions possible. Ryland's crew will continue to be out there working hard. The advantage that I see to this is trust, and then also that once you have a plan in place, and planning can be expensive, but when there's a plan in place, you can begin to execute against the plan. You can begin to find funding. I know the county will do chip seal for us. And so if I knew which roads were up for chip seal, we could contract that through the county. If I knew which roads we were hoping to get major grants for, JEO has the technical expertise and does that as part of our no cost regular contract. And so we could begin we would have the plan in place that could help us to have a greater chance of grant success. So
I think that probably the biggest thing with the sales tax is public trust, and that we're gonna use it for what we say we're gonna use it for, just like we did with the water sales tax. We're just, they know it needs to be done. They just want to be sure that the money's going to go there.
Yeah.
So the structure of the sales tax
Mhm.
wording and verbiage and plan
Right.
is going to be as important as solid 100% numbers.
That's good.
You
I know
did-
we went through about 6 iterations on the battle language on the previous one.
Yeah.
You did say that, you know, you feel that us voting on it and moving forward so that you guys can, you know, start doing everything as soon as possible is better. Is there a downside in waiting until we figure out that we're getting the
Mhm.
grant, we figure out, or we're getting the money for the water pipe, we figure out, okay, this is when we're starting, this is when the roads are gonna start being, you know, possibly torn up, that sort of thing. Once we get a timeline of what's going on. So is there any downside in just waiting on this? I'm not saying never, just, you know, waiting until we actually find out if the 1% sales tax is voted on.
So the condition of the roads.
Yeah, that sort of thing, rather than voting on it, you know, next month or the month after. Let's kind of see how things have developed before we just say,
Well,
yeah, let's do it.
my opinion is, I'm agreeing, is whatever information we can get, whether it's this or something else, is gonna help the community understand why we're putting this percentage in, why we're asking them to put it in, why we're asking them to vote for it. Any of this information, the lack of that information, people know we need roads, okay, fine.
Mhm.
But, the more information we can give them, so they can make the educated decision to vote on what they want or don't want, whatever they wanna do, that's where I'm at with it.
So, and no, I completely, like I said, I'm just asking, is there a downside in waiting? But,
I think it's,
I mean, you said 8 months. We plan on putting those on the vote in August or November?
We're looking toward August.
So they wouldn't even be done with they wouldn't even
No.
be done with the
But
thing
the
before.
draft
then.
of
not done, that's
Not
correct.
done, correct,
Right.
but they would have some,
Correct.
hopefully some data back to us so that we could
Right.
present before it.
Right.
Okay,
And the
Yeah, I
other
think that's-
option, I'll say, you know, I'm the one who brought it on February 11th, hoping to hit a window, but I would much rather have council be truly comfortable with what we're doing. And so if there isn't a comfort level yet, it's something we could walk through this year's budget process. We could walk up to the sales tax, see if it passed, and then consider this again toward late summer. Just as another alternative, look at this in late summer where we would then have results going into our 2027, 2028 budget season. And so downside, yes and no, but ultimately it's really about when there's the comfort level.
I think the downside is public perception that we're not being proactive.
I get that.
One thing, one thing that, and you mentioned that you have emotional ties to Eureka. So you obviously understand small town, small county politics.
Yeah.
One thing that has been kind of a bite on the water project, and I know Chris made some comments, and I've made some, is that the public, because of the dollar amount loss,
Mhm.
has felt a sense of urgency.
Right.
They perceive that the council and JEO, because you're in the middle of it, I mean,
Right.
no two ways around it,
Right.
has not felt the same sense of urgency that the public has in their pocketbook. And so this thing, I'd like to see us, if we're gonna do it, start the steps and let's methodically go through it and get it done.
No, that's fair. There's a difference between hitting a contractual schedule and feeling
Exactly.
yeah, that's completely fair. And I think one of the things that we've talked about already, I think we talked about it at the last city council, is we're setting up a SharePoint with Sarah.
Yep.
It's gonna be publicly available to you guys. You will see the contractual dates in there, and you'll have monthly updates in there that you can.
I personally thought today's meeting went well. This afternoon.
With our team.
With
on the
yeah,
work.
I thought it went well. It cleared up a lot of things.
Good.
For you, but none of the rest of us heard it.
In April,
I
we're
mean,
gonna get the information to you all through March and then have JEO come back in April on the water project.
and this is what, I mean, to be honest, this is why JO has a bad taste in my mouth for them. Cause that's what we hear. Well, they did this and then we don't hear anything for months, whether it's them or us or who. And not the same thing for the community.
That's my fault.
So,
And
no,
by the time we hear anything, it's, oh yeah, that was then, we're here now. And I kind of, and like I said, I just got on here, but you know, I've always come to the meeting, stuff like that.
Mhm.
And JEO's talking about, and not you, but I'm saying it feels like they're on step 4 or 5. We're kind of still back here on 2 or 3 because we're just hearing about 2 or 3. So that's where it's kind of like,
The
why I
information
asked
flow,
last,
the information flow hasn't been as good as it could.
correct. That's why I asked my first month in January, like, I understand they're here, but what are they doing? Where are we getting? And then he came last month, so that sort of thing. So I completely agree with
The
Chris. on that.
communication channel's getting better.
Yes, and that rests heavily on me as I get my feet under me in communication channels. I am meeting monthly with JEO to get project and progress updates. They're building out the dashboards so that we can see those as well. And my communication with council will improve as I get my feet under me.
it wasn't you.
wasn't
This is
you.
long before you.
Yeah.
This has been going on. I mean, honestly, this has been going on for 2 years that we've been talking about the water. And I mean,
That's why I said things have got better.
you say that, but I haven't seen anything yet. So as far as getting better, I hope that's true, but right now I haven't seen it.
I think it's fair. I mean, it's perception, it's your perception. So help me understand what I can do better. We're creating a online website that you will see monthly postings on every project.
Okay.
It's, I'm here. You guys are not paying me to be here. If you want me to come to every council, I will. That's a different level of effort. But I guess I will say in defense of Sarah, she heard what you're talking about very early on. She communicated that to us very on. I'm going to tell you, it was a surprise to us. We did not realize that the communication was felt the way it was.
Mhm.
We suggested the SharePoint. We're meeting with her monthly. So, on behalf of Sarah, I guess I'd say let's give her a few months, and then if it's not improving from your perspective, then let's make sure we talk again.
Well, that's what I say right now. It's not Sarah by any means.
Right.
I mean, this, like I said, this has been going on for 2 years. And then we find out there's another meeting today. I mean, are there email notes that we can just send out to the council so that we have something to understand?
Yes.
And I get it. I know you're swamped. I'm not trying to put more on your plate today, I promise.
Mhm.
But I mean, this is what it's been.
Mhm.
And so it makes it hard to understand where we are.
And so where I take full ownership on that today, part of getting to know council is getting to know who would like to be part of different things. On a meeting like that, obviously I cannot have full council together without
No.
having an open meeting.
no.
But to know who would like to tag in on different things that I go to first, and then if that person can't tag in, to go to somebody else. And so representative samples from council, and that as I get my communication in better order to let all of council know what is happening, even if not everybody is
Yeah.
sitting in that meeting.
Like I said, I mean, we do at work, we send out notes like,
Mhm.
hey, this is what this meeting was about. And it's just a little synopsis.
Mhm.
At least you know what the heck was going
What should
on.
be the SharePoint?
But that
Brad
SharePoint, yeah, that's,
Yeah, and
was talking about.
if you guys like, oh, we're not going there, we're not using it, then maybe we should start giving you monthly minutes in a PDF and an email. Like, tell us what is most helpful to you.
Okay.
We don't want to do all of them. Let's find a good one and get that to you.
Well, I think it's a great idea, a great plan for the city. I think Brad proposing that we use 2 of our guys is a fantastic idea and will help our options. And Sarah's made a great point with budgeting for the streets that need repair. So now we just need to have you get back to us on getting those guys trained and where we would be at. And keep in mind, we're a small community. you know, what Mike said with Eureka, you understand. But we'll need a real honest reason when we present what
Right.
would be with the data to our community. Anyone else?
Anybody else have any further questions, discussions?
No.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Good
Brad.
discussions.
Drive safe getting home.
There's more water
Council,
over there, Brad.
I will work with Brad. We will see just what we can do in terms of timing. This will come back to council either in March or in April.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
There's different dates on these packets, by the way. So this one might be different.
Very nice.
Oh, I know.
Can I shut this off?
Yes.
Oh,